Thanks for coming back. We're going to talk about the first theme of the course, people in the environment. All right, that's demographics and population growth. We're going to take a look at the basic progression first, and we'll talk about a couple other aspects that show up. This one's not as tidy as the other themes, largely because we don't see a lot of change. So we start with human beings being hunter-gatherers, and you will remember Jared Diamond writes about that extensively, so you should take a look at that. We then see human beings discover agriculture, they settle in one place, they begin growing their own food, and eventually we see growth of population to urban centers. You can see the politics video for further discussion on what happens past the urbanization stage, but really from a demographic point of view, after we got people living in large cities, we're largely done with human development. Population will continue to grow as long as people get more food. As long as we see more presence of a better diet, we will see people make more babies. And we've talked about that throughout the class. You should be familiar with why that happens. You should also pay attention to the fact that more food comes about from new food, right? The injection of new food sources, new nutrition. You also see more food come about because of the adoption of new technologies. People discover how to irrigate better, how to double crop, how to rotate their crops. All of those things, both of those things, lead to more food. More food equals more babies equals larger population. But as humans domesticate animals, and Jared Diamond talks about this too, we see those animals help us create new diseases. Cowpox becomes smallpox, is his example. So we see the outbreak of epidemic diseases, and epidemic diseases will disrupt this steady population growth. Also, a good war will disrupt steady population growth. So either of those two eventualities will lead to a decline in population numbers. And you'll see that in the various graphs that I've shown you throughout the course of this year. Generally, human migration patterns, people are pretty predictable. Human beings like to migrate to river valley civilizations. It provides fertile soil, drinking water, a source of fish, and water for irrigation that does not cause you to undergo massive physical strain. Okay? So people will settle near river valleys, and then they will branch out from there. As agricultural technology and irrigation technology expands, human population centers will expand, and they'll spill out of that river valley. Alternatively, we see people settle along coastlines with natural harbors. So as long as you've got a geographic formation that allows people to pull up their boats and dock them safely out of the weather, and they won't get destroyed by a hurricane or a monsoon wind or whatever, you will find human beings settling along those coastal areas. Again, usually there is somewhat drinkable water, or you can make the water drinkable. There's fish, there's a ready food source, and then they will spread and expand inland from there. Okay? No matter where humans settle, though, their number one goal is to try and control the environment as much as possible to make it habitable. So whether that is clear-cutting the land, slash and burn agriculture, terraforming and making terraces, human beings try to impact the environment to build what they need so that they can have the food that they need to survive, and shelter, obviously. Throughout the eras that we've looked at, humans continue to migrate, and migration, for the most part, is based entirely around the need for food sources. So nomads hold on as a way of life all the way through the post-classical era, and it is really until the Mongols finally meet their end we see nomads being a constant threat. And so we see a struggle between nomadic incursion and settled society. And so there's that constant conflict and that tension between the two lifestyles human beings have adapted. Once the Mongols are done, we largely see nomads vanish. There are still nomadic groups still today, but they do not form any kind of major presence on the globe. Nomads always acculturate. Every time we see nomadic groups dealing with settled groups, culturally, they are inferior. They don't often have written language, they do not have art, they do not have music, they do not have any way of real cultural expression. So they are culturally subordinated. As soon as they take over an area, they settle, they marry local people, they start talking the local language, they adopt local customs, and after a couple generations, the nomads have functionally vanished. So as far as the first theme, this is very straightforward and fairly basic. You can see this pattern repeat itself over and over without a great deal of intellectual effort. Hopefully this one should be the easiest theme for you to deal with. Your task is to make sure that you can go through the different regions of the globe that we've studied and match up what has happened where. By and large, it's the same thing every single time.